Let's do it. Money Buddy number three. We're back again. It's officially been 8 weeks since Leanne and I's very first conversation on this journey. And I'll let Leanne speak for herself, but I can honestly say I feel my relationship with money has done a complete 180. And we said, I think it was on the first episode about how like my financial situation isn't that different, but I feel way better. My financial situation is starting to look different. Yeah.
I would agree. Mine is
Yeah.
also starting to look different.
Yeah.
And I joined a gig app actually when I first started, like when I first made the decision that I wanted more money in my life. And within 2 weeks of talking to you our first time, I was like, I'm gonna just try this thing out. And I made a couple $100 that first couple of weeks, end of the month, like end of February. And I was like, I have a couple $100. Oh my gosh, that's kind of weird.
This
And
is the thing. It's working.
yeah, all of a sudden, like March, it's like that doubled, and in April, it's gonna double again. And I mean, like it's just a gig app, and
And
I'm
like
not
talk
doing
us
that much
through what is that? What does that mean? A gig app.
a gig app. So it's essentially I'm on an app, and the app that I am on specifically is Rover. So I'm pet sitting, and people can just come to me. Like there's not anything that I need to do outside of create a profile and put my profile out there and say, hey, I'm available for, you know, pet sitting, house sitting, dog walking, drop-ins, that kind of thing, because I have time on my hands. I'm still a student and I'm still job hunting. There's still a lot of things going on in my life, but I've got that time available to me. And once I signed up for Rover, it was like a week of quiet and I was like, cool. And then there was a week of, okay, now we have people. And after that, there was just more people and consistently more people. And I will be honest and say I never said no to anybody. I was just like, if I can do it, if it's not in conflict with any of the other things that are already like scheduled that I have already verbally agreed to or signed contracts with, like if it's not any of that kind of stuff, like yeah, I'll say yes. So it was a lot of saying yes, but like even that first $100, I was like, oh my God, I have money. I have money that like didn't come out of
Income.
my savings that like
Whoa.
in some yeah, it was just such a strange experience because like I've been a student for a couple of years. I've been living off of my own savings. I have not had any income. And so like that in itself going from like 2 years of zero income to all of a sudden like here's $100 was like, well, that's exponential. Like even in itself, I was like, that just it feels good. And so that was part of like the feeling experience of like the minute I made that first, I think the first sitting experience was probably like $30, $25. Like the minute I had that first experience, I felt different. I was like, oh my God, this is how you make money, which is funny because I've had a job most of my life. So like I've always been able to like 9 to 5. I mean, like I worked midnights, but like make money. And all of a sudden, here is this new experience where it was like I just casually did a thing that I actually enjoy, which is hang out with animals because I freaking love animals. And now I'm in this moment of, oh, here you go. Like, have some money for doing a thing you were already doing for free with all of your friends and family. Like, that was just strange. So, I mean, we could talk about the mentality of me even like offering my services extensively for free, like for the 2 years that I was literally just house hopping, like, oh, I'll be in Chicago and then I'll be in St. Louis and then I'll be, here around here and I'll be around there. And oh, you need me? Like, I'll come visit and then I'll just stay for a little while and see you a little longer. Like, it was something that I was already doing and then decided to like plant and do like for money. And here I am making more money at it, which is just like, it's super exciting. It got really hectic and busy there for a second. And I had to like take some measures to slow things down. But like, it was really interesting in the concept of manifestation to really see it come to life. Like, the manifestation aspect in respect to Rover for me was just profound. Like, it has changed the way I look at a lot of things because the minute I started saying yes, and the minute I put my face out there, the minute I was like, here I am, I'm a profile, I'm available. The minute I said I'm available, people showed up. And then the minute I said yes to them, more people came. And then I said yes, and more people came. And then I said yes, and too many people were there. And like I see that as a general understanding of the manifestation of life. is like it starts out slow and it might not look like there's a lot going on, but before you know it, like as long as you keep saying yes, it's going to be there.
Dude,
So like,
I love so many things about what you just said. Um, and it's a perfect leaping off point for what we want to talk about in this conversation about finding our yes, right? And so I love the way your story demonstrates that what you ended up turning into your offer to make money was something you were already doing, something you were already doing because you enjoyed it. So that's definitely like a gold mine. Not that we have to monetize every hobby we ever have, but the things that feel fun to us and playful and energy giving, like that's such a good place to start with like, what is it that you want your offer to be? And I love like really the basis of this conversation talking about our offer. What even is our offer? Where do you put your offer? What do you charge for your offer? Like all of the things of like how do you actually go from like zero to I'm making an income off of this? Um, a quote that I love, one of the very first things that Kathy Heller said that like really impacted me was making money is so easy. And I was like, wait, what? Really? Like that's not my experience. And she's like, oh no, it's easy. It's two steps. Be visible, make your offer. Be visible, make
mhm,
your offer. And that's it. And like that's all you did was like I made a
yeah,
profile, it had a price on it. And then, like, I don't remember, I don't think you said this in your story, but like you took measures to slow things down. You
yeah,
raised your price because
I
the
did.
line coming in was so fast and so many offers. And it's like,
I
wow,
had
I
people
think
trying
I,
to like book the same weekends every weekend. It was just kind of, and I mean, like I'm at this point consistently booked through all of April, part of May, and I have bits and pieces through July and August, like
yeah.
May, June, July, August. Like it just started and then didn't stop. So yeah, as soon as I started experiencing people needing me for the same times, I started raising prices. Like, okay, we've got too many people here for the same space, so I will raise my prices. And I actually was really flustered during that time because I was responding to so many inquiries. And I was just like, I don't even know how to keep track of all of these people. And so it was really like, I had to be really careful in terms of like, okay, I said yes to you and I can't say yes to you because you're the same date, time, whatever. So when I raised prices, I thought that that would slow things. And I didn't actually, the first raising of prices didn't seem to slow things at all. And so I was like, I have to raise my prices again. But interestingly, I was too afraid to raise it to the actual number that I wanted to. I remember talking to you about this, but I wanted to raise my rates like $10, and I was like, I did it on my profile, and then I backed out. I was like, ooh, that feels too edgy. Like I went too close to the edge. Like that just isn't comfortable. I'm gonna back down and just do $5. So $5 raise. And then it didn't change anything. So I actually did end up needing a $10 raise anyway. Um, and since then, I have raised my rates again because I'm still like occasionally I'm still getting too many offers. And so like I'm finally reaching a stage where it's like I'm getting a couple of offers a week. And that's perfect because when people ask for especially house sitting, I can only do it once. And then whoever first come first serve gets the weekend. And that is much easier to handle. And so I like obviously I'm booking out further. So any weekend is available in theory, but people are choosing similar weekends or overlapping trips and that kind of thing. So when people come in, they come in and they're asking for like 4 or 5 days. And, 2 offers a week is 10 days of my life that just kind of disappear if I say yes to both of those. So I feel much more comfortable in the pace now. But yeah, I did have to raise prices.
Mm. So yes, I love this Rover experience and the gig app experience. And you can Google gig app and there's lots of them out there, like for different kinds of services and
Mhm.
whatever it is that you want to offer. But like, I also want to know, like, is that what you want to be doing? Like, is that what sets your heart and soul on fire kind of thing?
I love animals. And so it's kind of easy to say yes now because I'm not working and because I do love to have that experience of snuggling. I don't have any animals of my own right now. So like it's an excellent opportunity for me to like feed off of their energy and just like enjoy being with them at the same time that I'm hopefully comforting them with their owners being gone. But I started it simply because it seemed like a move I was comfortable making. It was more like my edge at the time, where I was like, I want more money. I need to make more money. I need to be making money, and I haven't got a job. So at this point, like, how am I going to bring in income? And that seemed like a very comfortable way to do it. And so yes, it was definitely like edge at first because it was like all new. It was all uncomfortable. I had no idea and I didn't know anything about pricing. So I just stuck with standard pricing and was just like, we'll see what happens. But the more comfortable and the more I like branch out and like go back into the world and get like more comfortable with offering, the more I have realized that like I still want to get into life coaching. I still want to get into like helping people transform themselves. I love this idea. I came across it back at the end of October or November, back at the end of October. And like it was just such a profound thought at the time that my brain did not know how to process it. So it's come back around a couple of times. And I'm at the point now where I'm taking action on it and saying, I absolutely want to do this. Like my heart sings at the idea of doing this. And so Rover's helping me to really get comfortable with the communication formats and like interactions and networking and the actual offering of coaching is like the next step for me. So it's exciting and terrifying, but it feels so much more doable than it did like 6 months ago.
Well, and I love how Rover played its part, and is playing its part as like kind
And
of
will continue. Yeah.
building a ramp into like getting your confidence together, like putting yourself out there, like having your offer purchased and going back and forth with a customer, like, are you satisfied? Like, I mean, there's so much in that realm of like being your own business storefront that like you can learn on any kind of offer and then take those skills and apply it towards like, okay, now what feels like lighting your soul on fire? And life coaching may be it for a while. And then maybe there's another thing, like the offer, like entrepreneurship in general for me. And I think a lot of like Neptune and Capricorn generation, which Leanne and I both are, um, it's like when you will build a business that is based on yourself, it is a path to spiritual development. It's like she's saying, like finding your next edge, meeting it, going beyond it, feeling the exhilaration of, like you said, like I did that first gig and like $25, like I felt different. Like I created this. Like I didn't get hired for a job for somebody else had the work they wanted me to do and like they're going to pay me a paycheck. Like I went out into the world and like found how to do this for myself. Like there's a self-efficacy rush that comes from like being in that space of like this is what I want to do. You make it happen. It pays you. I mean, it is about the money. You need to eat, you need just a roof over your head, but it's also like something that like is growing your soul at the same time, or at least that's my experience of like being in this
Agreed.
space.
Absolutely. Honestly, Rover has really changed the way that I see manifestation in general because it was such an easy yes for me. And in retrospect, like seeing how yeses compound on yeses. Like when you keep saying yes, and I imagine from a rover standpoint, I mean, like I would assume that it's algorithm related here. And so like it's more obvious that it's like when you say yes, you get more like rover and or the algorithm pushes more people to you. Like, but that is literally also the universe that it's like, if you want it, you have to say yes to it. And it's gonna be uncomfortable when you do it. And it's gonna feel weird, look lonely. It'll look like you're not succeeding for a while, which was also my beginning experience in Rover. I didn't get anything for like the first week and a half. And then I did. But like for a while, it was just quiet. It was like, oh, I've done the thing. And I actually, by the time I'd actually started getting messages, I'd forgotten that I'd signed up for Rover. So
That's about
like
usually when it happens. Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to do this thing and I'm going to commit to this thing and then, not hear anything about it for a while. So there was that initial manifestation of like, I want to do it and I don't know, what else to do than start a profile. Here, I'm going to take this step, just let it happen. And from that point on, just say yes to everyone who's coming in, say yes to learning more about the experience, say yes to the discomfort of like the new experiences. Like the first time I did a drop in is not the same as the first time I did a half sit. Like that this is an uncomfortable experience. Someone's asking you for something that's, that seems like new for me. I've never done that before. Oral medication. I've done, in certain spaces here, but is that okay for you here? Like increasing communication, increasing networking, becoming more comfortable with conversations around money, value, and expectations. Like it's been profound. And I can't overstate enough the idea of like a consistent and continuing yes. Like that's really what stuck with me of all the things. It was literally being able to put myself out there and then to say yes when things started showing up because I am hella good at saying no.
Well, and exactly. It's like, what does it take to say yes in the first place to like even make the profile? It's like you have to believe in yourself to say, like, yeah, I could do that. Right?
Mhm.
Like whether you put a profile for pet sitting or life coaching, like you have to believe that like I can back this up. And then you think like, well, if I make the offer, if I put out the flyer, if I put the profile up, then I'll be fine. If somebody calls me and they're like, hey, I want a session or I want you to come house sit. But it's like, no, that's a whole nother level of it getting real, of like you having to like truly, now you're going to show up at this date and this time, and they're going to pay you X dollars and they're going to have X expectations. Like at
Right.
that point, like it's so different than making an ambiguous, like make a profile or whatever. Like that's its own hurdle. That's its own edge. But then getting hired off your profile, that's like the whole next step of like, okay, now you
Yeah.
got to believe in yourself in an even more tangible way.
Yeah. And even I was thinking on, when I started saying no, I didn't want to say no. It was a situation that was forced upon me. Like I can't be in two houses at once. I need to say no. And in the experience of I want to continue saying yes, I had to reevaluate how I could create a situation where I was still saying yes to everything that came in. So like I think in the context of like raising my prices, that was my way of saying this is how I'm eliminating the no's that I'm having to say. Like, this is me finding a way to create a situation where I can say more yeses and where I can still commit to the things that I want to be committing to. So I was, again, like as an overarching theme, I lay that Rover experience onto everything now because it's like, oh, okay, if I want to say like yes to this, then I need to actually say yes. Like the idea that if I hadn't actually put my profile on Rover, nothing would have actually existed for them to come find me, no matter how long it took, no matter, like I wasn't promoting my business at the time, but I was just like, we're just going to see. And I gave myself, honestly, I think I gave myself like 2 weeks before I was like, then I'll start mentioning people. And I didn't get that far. I didn't get to the point where I actually had to like start mentioning it and start promoting. It just started.
Yeah. Well, it goes back to like the first step is get visible and the second
Hmm.
step is make the offer. Like we can have an offer, we can have value. You could have the cure for cancer in your pocket. But if you're hiding in a broom closet somewhere, like nobody knows that you have that. So like getting visible, you have to do that part. And that's like it is such a huge step all by itself. And so I want to go back though to like the experience where you had the profound realization that like I want to try life coaching
Mm,
because it may seem on the surface like on a practical level that like life coaching and house sitting like has nothing to do with each other, but I
hmm.
gotta think like when we want something that is like out of reach, like it's an edge beyond the edge we're comfortable with meeting, these little incremental manifestations will show up to like guide us to the next piece and the next piece and the next piece. Like I think about my journey with entrepreneurship and like I want to be an entrepreneur, but I had all this self-doubt around money mostly. And I manifest a business partner who wants to contribute the money skills. They want to be in charge of this and they want me to have the creative whatever else I wanted. And it was like that was that next piece of like, oh, I can definitely say yes to this because look, they're bringing that. And so, eventually I have to demanifest that because it isn't what I want, but now I have those skills myself. Right. And so I'm not starting as an entrepreneur all by myself. Like at that edge was too far outside of reach. And so here's this incremental manifestation. So yeah, just even the seed getting
Sure.
planted of like, what do you really want? And then say yes to what you can actually reach. Like that is such a powerful way to let it come into fruition. Like, I want to be a life coach. And so now you're going to say no to Rover or whatever, because that's not life coach. If it's within reach and there's a little edge in that, use it to stretch you out and get you bigger to like, okay, now I'm ready to move into the life coaching thing. So, yeah, I want to go back to the October download of like, man, that would be amazing. Like, how did that come about?
That was terrifying in some ways,
Right.
as much as
Way too
I think
far
that
outside of reach.
the hell yes was so strong and it was so against everything that I had ever known in my life that I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
So I came across a free 3 or 4 day experience with a psychologist. And at the time, I was saying yes to everything in terms of webinars. So if y'all are familiar with the concept of like the algorithms on like Instagram and Facebook and that kind of thing, I'm not really on Facebook anymore. Um, but Instagram for sure. And I was like, I'm just going to take advantage of the algorithm. I'm going to start clicking on things that are vaguely of interest to me. So I said yes to so many ads. Like so many advertisements were for free webinars. And I was like, I'm going to do it. This interests me. I'm going to do it. I did like webinars for money. I did like everything, like you name it. A lot of them ended up being coaching webinars. And I was just kind of like, I think this is kind of cool. And I kind of like this idea. I'm definitely getting a lot of information from this. And still not anything that really stuck. I was like, this is curious, but I don't know that I'm going to take that leap. So from July through September, I was just doing free webinar like every day. It was just, I'd scheduled some form of free webinar and I was just like, I'm saying yes to everything. I'm just touching everything. We're going to see what I like and what I don't like, what sticks, what doesn't stick. So like I had some manifestation webinar, like everything. And it was fun. It was interesting. I came across that's how I came across Susie Moore, and I absolutely love her as a personality. That's how I came across Kathy Heller, and like really got to know some of the people that ended up like influencing my life in terms of the material that they produce and the things that I want to continue learning. I was like, absolutely, I want to continue learning these things that you're talking about. Absolutely, I connect with these things. But at that point, it was just like, here's a webinar here, here's a webinar there, and I didn't discriminate whether it seemed like a popular person or an unpopular, like new to the field, that kind of thing. I was literally just like, if your topic sounds interesting, I'm kind of in. And like, because they're free webinars, you never know how much material you're going to get. And I had a couple, I think, that I just shut them down in the middle because I was like, this is not working for me. There was one that was like a time management thing that I was like, I already know all of these things. This is not helpful to me. So you never know what they're going to look like, but it was always interesting to like get in and start and see what it's all about. So by the end of October, still doing webinars just here and there because I was starting to get a little burnt out. I was like, I don't know. I feel like I've touched a lot of things and I don't even know why I'm touching all the things. I was like, I just want to see things. So once I hit this 4 day retreat, it is a daily experience with a psychologist who is also a transformational life coach. And within the first day, honestly, within the first 30 minutes of listening to her, because each of her days were like 2-ish hours, maybe 3 hours. Um, Within the first 30 minutes, I had like listened to her and she was explaining things to me that I had been processing myself for the past few years in terms of self growth. She explained to me the process I had been using that I did not even realize that I had been using. And I was like, oh my God, woman. Oh my God. And from that point on, I was just fascinated. I was like, really? Really? Like, what? So there were and I'll give you an example because this is the one like she her name is Dr. Claire Zammit, if you've ever heard of her. She was talking about the concept of feeling like you're not enough. She discusses core wounds and how that can manifest in life and how ultimately what you are experiencing is just a lack of a specific capacity or skill. Like it's not that you are incapable of doing anything, you just haven't learned the a specific skill. So when I say I'm not enough, for example, the discussion that she goes into is that, you know, often people will say that because they have an experience of overgiving and overgiving and overgiving, and it's not actually what people are looking for. So on the other end of that, you know, you've got people who are like, thanks, I didn't ask for this. And then you just feel worse because like you're
Yeah,
trying to
for real.
give and they don't actually want it. And her explanation for that, she's like, you need to be communicating, and what you're lacking is an understanding of value and asking what someone actually values and wants from you. When you understand what it is that they need by communicating with them, you can give them what they need, and then they will be grateful, and it will like there's a validation there. But like, don't just offer everything to everyone. You're going to feel burnt out, and half of those things those people don't need. Like they're gonna be like, I'm not super grateful for this because I didn't ask for it. Like, and I get it because I have totally had those experiences where I'm like, but I did all of the things. Like, I feel like there should be some more excitement on your end. Like, I did so much. I gave you so much. Like, why am I not feeling like I'm getting any energy return? It's because I was spending all of my energy to give things that people didn't want. Like that's not how we want to do it. So like I was just astounded. I was like, "Oh, so that's my pattern. That's what I'm doing." And what I'm missing is a an experience where I can actually communicate and discuss value. I don't understand how to create value. And that's because for me personally, I have a fear of rejection. And so any form of communication where I want to try and learn how to create value ends up having to be some form of like, well, I don't want this, I do want this. And I hear all of the no's. I don't want this, I don't want that, you're doing this wrong, XYZ. And it's not about me, it's about them and creating value for them. So that pattern being explained, and then me realizing that what I needed was to develop a new skill was so eye opening. And I was so excited about it. And I was like, oh my gosh, the material that she's teaching here in this 4 day retreat is masterful. And I want more of that. I want to be able to help people see these patterns because it just was mind blowing for me. I want people to understand where their patterns are coming from and the skills that they need to address them. Like that to me is just freaking fascinating. So, needless to say, within 30 minutes, I knew that I was like in. And after the 4 day retreat, it was like I'd already known that I was in. So she offered a master class that I took. And her specialty is women focused coaching, which also really appealed to me. So I was like, hell yes. I want to be involved in elevating women and helping them see these patterns and getting them super excited about, you know, growth of their own and expanding and, you know, learning how to manage the experiences that they're having. Like it was profound for me. So that being said, knowing within the first day was kind of terrifying because I was like, oh shit, I'm in grad school for something completely unrelated. Like there is literally no relation here. Like, and it's an introduction to entrepreneurship, to potentially stepping out on my own. I had been granted night shift for 7 years and then day shift for 2 years. And like that to me, like as a standard steady job, I loved it. I went into grad school because I was thinking like I'll just advance in other areas. And so like this has nothing to do with that in the respect of like I worked in a laboratory. I'd be not in a laboratory. That life coaching is a science of its own, which is exciting. but it is not, simple bench work, pick up a pipette and use a centrifuge kind of situation. So I was like terrified because it's like, I'm going to grad school for something that is not this. Would I be willing to say no to grad school? So the other way that I recognized that it was a hell yes was in comparing it to my experiences in classes that I was taking. I was like, I don't feel the same when I'm working on my homework as I do when I'm learning about this aspect of life coaching, this aspect of transformation, of self transformation. Like self transformation, yes, hell yes. Want to talk about it all day, want to dive into it even further. It was terrifying. Like school, not so exciting, kind of stressful, wasn't really enjoying the material, but kept thinking, and this is again something that had kind of been programmed into me, this idea that, like, well, on the other side of it, I'm sure I'm going to have a job that will give me more work life balance, which is kind of what I was looking for from that perspective. The idea of entrepreneurship was terrifying. So when I decided that I wanted to say yes, I actually like was having a conversation with my family because they had supported me. I live with my brother and had partially lived with my parents. And so it was like, this is like, I don't know that I still want to be in this program. And my mama, she did not know how to handle it. And we had a lot of conversations wherein she just kept asking me questions because she didn't get it and like didn't know how to support it because she didn't get it, didn't know where it was coming from. And like this kind of transition, like I get it, is it's astounding. And so I like it caught her by surprise. It caught me by surprise, but I had the feeling of knowing that it was going to be a yes. Like it was easier for me to see it because I felt it and was not getting that support necessarily from my family because they're like, you've been going to school for 2 years. This is what you're going to do. Like, I don't think so. And I was at that point at the end of
Hmm.
October, coming into like the end of the fall quarter and thinking, I don't think I want to sign up for the winter quarter. I don't know what I want to do after that, but I do know that I don't want to sign up for the winter quarter. Like I am 2 classes away from the end of my degree and I don't know that I want to finish it. And that's a really hard thing for the people supporting you to take. I get it. I absolutely get it. So the hell yes was a scary experience because I was like, am I turning my back on all of the work that I've done for the first like 30 years of my life? Am I doing that? And I like sat with it and was like, yeah, I want to do that, but I just don't know how to handle it. My brain kind of shut down. So during the winter quarter, I was like, am I going to take a spring class or am I not going to take the spring class? It's the last class before the graduation class. Like, am I going to do it? Am I not? So I kind of stopped thinking about it there for a bit, but interestingly, did bring in Rover. And from an entrepreneurial perspective, what you were talking about, this idea of the baby step, that really was a baby step into earning money in a non 9 to 5 experience. And like that, I think was absolutely the baby step I needed to see that it's possible. Because before then I was like, I don't know how to like live outside of a 9 to 5, outside of some form of structured company position. I don't know how to do it. So Rover definitely gave me that. And I did not think about coaching again, actually, for like, I kind of like every once in a while would like, I kept the resources from the master class and would occasionally want to like step into them and like learn some more about them and then would tell myself no. So there was a lot of me being like, I don't think I'm ready. I don't think I'm ready. I don't think I'm ready. And I just kind of didn't think about it over the winter. And I did sign up for a spring class, but I've also started reading all of the material, actually getting serious about the coaching and like making it a part of my life, wanting to do it and taking the steps towards it. So like that was a really, really, really long process of me accepting that I wanted to do something that I'd never done before and like the potential struggle that that would create in my life. Like, I don't know what this is going to be, but I want this struggle. Like, I am excited to do these things, and I kind of don't care if it's going to be a hard process. Like, I'm here to learn and I'm here to have fun with it. And I'm here to meet new people and hopefully help them, like, and get them to see as exciting as it was for me to see my own patterns. Like, that was the goal. So it was a while that it took me to actually like mentally accept. So after October, at the end of October. There was the month of November that was just really, really rough because I did do a lot of processing then. Like I was not taking care of myself, was not treating myself right, was not into the self-care. And like I was so stressed out at this idea. Like I was losing hair, was not getting proper nutrition. I was like it was a hot mess during that month. And then I settled and I don't even remember what I settled on. I think I settled on the idea that I don't have to make the decision right now. Like I was freaking out about it and was just like, well, play around and see if you like it in another month or two. Like maybe this is a passing fancy. Like who knows? So I think that's kind of where I left it and then just didn't touch it all of winter. It was
Because
it was profound. It was profound and terrifying. Like you would never think of a yes as being terrifying, but like
yes, you would. I
I
think
would now for sure.
to
But
think
like
that it's not going to be terrifying, I think is unrealistic.
I
Like
would
when
not have
you are
known that in October.
answering the call of your soul, expect to be scared shitless. Like
I
that's
was
just
I was
how it works.
appropriately scared shitless. As a matter
Yes.
of fact, that is
Good
exactly what
job.
happened.
Good job. That's how you know you're on the right track. If it feels safe and comfy and cozy, then you're not doing it. That's not it. If it doesn't take every ounce of courage you have to the point where you have to build new courage to be able to answer, like you're not doing it, period. So I think like accepting that fear is a real part of the process. Like I love that that got to be part of the conversation. Like for me, I figured out like maybe by 6, 7 years old that I want to be a professional public speaker. And I am just like in the last couple years, like actually accepting that. So, I mean, like 30 years worth of the deep internal process of like, I want the thing. I can't chase it. I'm not ready. It's too scary. Like, if it doesn't freak you out, then like, what are you even doing? Like, what that's not it. Like, if we play it safe, then and we're following like other people's paths, we're keeping ourselves comfortable, we're keeping the people around us comfortable. Like, that's an option. But that's not answering your soul's call. Like your soul's call will like take you over the edge. Like dive off the cliff. You don't know what's over there. You're not supposed to know what's over there. It's brand new territory.
It is brand new territory. And honestly, it's interesting because my guesses prior had not been terrifying, but that was because they followed structure. Like I was excited to be a chemistry major and go to the university that I went to. And like it was essentially because that fit within the structure of my family's understanding. And so it was easy to say yes because like so many people were just like, we're so excited for you. We're so excited that you're doing this thing and that you want to go to this place. Like this is so amazing. And then after I graduated, I went into the medical technology space. And like my mom was actually the one who found that program because I was like post chemistry grad. And I was like, I don't know that I want to be like that specific into chemistry. I want to do something that's more well rounded. And like the yes of medical laboratory science was so loud and so real and so supported. So like this one I knew was ooh, we don't know how to support you. We love you and we want you to be happy. But I'm like, definitely not fitting in with the pattern of expectation in my family. It's like this is a different thing. No one's ever attempted to be an entrepreneur before. No one's ever attempted life coaching before. No one. So like there was a lot of pushback just from the I don't understand aspect.
Mm.
Like does not compute
Yeah.
is really a lot of like that was kind of a lot of my experience. Like my brother was like super supportive. He was like, fuck it, find out. Like go do it. Like he was
Great.
very much just like, you want to try it? Go try it. But like my parents, especially my mom, was like, that I what? Like what? How does that work with what you're doing now? And I was like, Mom, it doesn't. Like
That's
it
so
doesn't.
interesting. I don't like, yeah, I don't think I've ever realized like almost every yes I've ever said like scared the living shit out of me. Like every step along the way. And is that like not normal, I guess is my question. Like it's
I
been
don't
normal for me to go where I want to go means you got to leave it all behind
I
every
don't think
time.
the leaving it all behind has ever been scary for me. So maybe that's part of part of the
But it also
set
sounds like you
like
didn't leave it behind.
and I guess it depends on what you mean by it at this point, because like I
Sure.
went to new spaces, did new things, separated myself from the people that I knew and loved, but like that didn't seem scary to me because I'd kind of hopped when I was younger. So like the idea of a new place, doing a new thing didn't seem that hard. And just knowing that I had love and support was just like, okay, cool. Like my parents also think this is a great idea. So like that just works in my like there was a level of safety and comfort in knowing like, okay, people in the prior generation have or people who have kept me alive essentially have decided that like this will also keep me alive. So excellent. And
Emotional
are
support.
there. Yeah,
Leaving
emotionally
your
supportive.
emotional support behind is what I'm saying. Like when I
Yeah,
chose to do this instead of this,
uh-huh.
like, yeah, they didn't get it. Then I didn't want to get a job after college. I wanted to go to grad school. They didn't get it. I wanted to leave the state and move somewhere all by myself. They didn't get it. Like they never understood. And I had to, do you want to stay where like, yeah, they're signing off? Or do you want to like go where you can feel like this is what's right? It's
That
scaring me
is,
and I'm crying and bawling and I'm terrified and this is so freaking hard and I'm gonna do it anyway.
yes.
And
That was
so yeah,
very much my, so like, yes, absolutely emotional support. And that being said, like, I think some, because my friends have been super supportive. Interestingly, so there was a wedding that I went to in, I think it was November. It was right after I was like really looking at life coaching. And I was like, I want to do this, but I'm not quite sure how I'm going to process this. And I went to a wedding of a friend and we randomly we work she took my job when I left it. But I loved that laboratory and so I kept in touch with everyone and so I met her that way. So we became friends. So when I went to her wedding, all of my former colleagues were there and I love them to death. They are wonderful. They are also a generation above me. They are Generation X or Boomer. And so I was explaining this to them, and there were relatively few my generation millennials there. But as I'm explaining this decision towards life coaching and away from grad school, I got a lot of pushback from those who are older than me, like the Xers and the Boomers, especially it's core Xers mainly. But like they were hardcore pushing back because they also did not understand. They had the same conversations with me that my mom did. Like very much just finish it. And then when you're out, you'll get the better job and you'll have the life balance that you're looking for. Like you don't need to turn and go in a new path. Like just stay on this one. And I had like a situation where essentially like there was an experience that they hadn't gotten their own graduate degree. They'd always wished that they'd gone to grad school. And so they're like, definitely don't pass this up. You don't want to pass this up. You will regret it for your life, right? For you will always regret that. And so like there was a lot of push to stay on the path I was on. And it was really my friends and my generation that were hella supportive. And the people that I was with at the wedding, I actually met a couple of people there that were my generation. They're like, "Oh my God, you would be great at that. I would absolutely love to be a part of that. Like you're absolutely fascinating. Like this is totally something that you should do." Super supportive, my generation. Like, and there is the question of, previous generations have done it a different way and there's a level of wisdom in that. And the question is does that wisdom still apply? And have I just not learned it? Or does that wisdom actually not apply? And this is a valid path, which to me, obviously, it seems like a valid path. Like I want to do it. I want to take that leap. And that lack of emotional safety, again, it's like being surrounded by people that are just like, that's not feasible. Like having to look them in the face and be like, I also do not care. I think it is, and I want to do it, and I will manage what happens afterwards. Like that was definitely my first experience in having to say that. So definitely friends, super supportive, brother, super supportive. Like boomer generation, Gen X, struggling. They're struggling. Like just not seeing exactly what I saw, which from an artist perspective, I think like how many things have I created in the laboratory? Like, oh, I write protocols. So like creating a protocol and like trying to explain it to them beforehand was like I can't explain it to you because you don't see what I see. And that's because what I see is up here. And the same experience is happening now where it's like, you don't see what I see. Like, I believe that I can create this thing. So, like, I get that you don't understand it, but that's not going to stop me from doing it this round. But it is a lot scarier because you don't understand it and because this is the first time that it's going to require me being able to support myself quite clearly. So
Mm.
like before it was like, well, when I have a 9 to 5 job, making my own decisions was just kind of easy, but then I was already monetarily supportive. I'm like starting over from scratch. And that's kind of like, oh my God, am I going to be able to feed myself next week? Like entrepreneurship is not for the faint-hearted, which I have heard. And it's just becoming more obvious when I'm trying to like collect money.
Right. Like actually put it into practice. Like
Yeah,
it's just a regular experience of meeting your edge and going beyond it. And again, like when you're on like a
very
nine to
much so.
five kind of track, like you just don't have to have that experience. Like it's easy to keep that over there and like you've got
Yeah.
security and stability and predictability in your income and like it's a big trade to like give that part away, but what you get for it, like it's not all loss. Like you're gaining something too. And that is like the resonance of being able to say yes to like what it is
Yeah.
that you can feel inside your body. Like
And I
you know
actually,
it in your soul.
yeah, I came across a phrase that made so much sense to me. It said, following your internal wisdom brings you internal peace. And like that is very much what I'm experiencing. Like the external can be chaos and still following, even though it might not even make sense, the little steps that I have taken where I say, I hear you, self. I know we want to do this thing, and then doing it, like I feel so good after. Like it may not even still make sense after. And I'm just like, that was amazing. This feels good.
Yeah.
So it's I very much get it. It's this idea that, you really have to take the leap with every yes that you take towards your soul. Like there's not an easy scenario in that. You're literally saying, I'm going to do this thing even though it doesn't make sense. And in every experience, my feeling at the end has always been so good and so peaceful in knowing that I did it. I did it and I'm proud of myself for doing it and I'm proud of myself for taking that leap and like look at you still being alive and things are actually going way better than you even
Yeah.
even envisioned. Like this is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. But like leaving behind the co-signing of the people that we trust and respect, like
Yeah.
that means that you have to co-sign yourself, that you have to respect your own opinion, that you have to trust your own opinion. And that's the part that I feel like is what a lot of people really struggle with. They're like, well, but my husband doesn't think it's a good idea, or my parents don't think it's a good idea. So I'll just stay here. And it's like, you can, you always can. We
Absolutely.
all have free will. You can do whatever you want. But living for those external validations, it doesn't generate the inner peace. It doesn't like give you the real confidence that is possible when, again, like you do it, you set out on the path, and then you have evidence that it worked.
Mm-hmm.
There's no drug on the planet like that, of like you built it for yourself. You had a
Absolutely.
vision, brought it to life, and it's real. Like again, like it's addictive at this point. Like I
Yeah.
couldn't imagine going back to a job. And if anything, that's what pushes me to continue to like work through the discomfort of being in this space and making my offers and being more visible is like, is this more uncomfortable than you would be having to go get a job? No. So then make the thing, go live, put it out there, like offer it again. Nobody bought, offer it again. Like keep going because that little bit of like, well, it's scary and it's nerve-wracking, whatever. It's like, that's nothing compared to having to go get a 9 to 5. Like that feels like torture compared to the little bit of discomfort of like, oh, this is like me meeting my next edge. Like I would
Very
so
much
much rather
so.
do that.
And like I do think a lot about the idea that like if not now, when? I think I'm in a unique space right now that I do, I mean, like I'm creating space for myself. Um, but having the break, like I was taking a relatively safe risk when I quit my job in order to be a student because I had savings and I had budgeted it out and I was like, we can make this work, this can work. And I was even paying for most of my schooling rather than taking loans. So like I was relatively comfortable when I took that first step, even knowing that like I'm quitting my job. I was excited to have space to do things. And I had so many projects that I had told myself, when I have time, these are the things I'm going to do. And it wasn't until I had quit my job and reached what I thought was the most opportune moment, like the dream scenario of all I'm taking in the beginning when I first started the program. It was one class that was expected to be like 25 to 30 hours a week, like the equivalent of a part-time job. I'm dipping my toe back into school. And like it was supposed to be relatively easy. And I was supposed to have all of this free time and it was supposed to feel good. And it did not. And I was like, I feel like I have no time. How is it that I feel like I have no time when I'm literally not working? And that was the beginning of a whole mental shift of realizing like how many games my mind can play with me.
Mm.
And this idea of me thinking like I don't have time, that is not that is not a real phrasing. It's just something that I have been living with for so long because I focus so much on productivity as a form of worth. Like, I think I need to do all of these things. And so, like, I gave myself essentially a to do list anyway, and then was like, well, I don't have time for fun. And like, that's the most unreal thought that I could have ever
Mm.
imagined because I'm like, I'm literally not working. And so now 2 years later, having worked through a lot of that mental shift, I'm like, I am literally, I have the most time I have ever had in my life. I'm never going to have more time than this, if not now, when.
Yeah.
And I think of that in the context of like my daily time. And I think of that in the context of like my life. I am not quite midlife, but I'm pretty close. And at this point, it's like, if not now, when?
Yeah.
Like, if I don't do it at a time when I feel like I have energy right now, feel like I have time right now, like, if I don't do it, will I ever do it? And like, I don't want to regret not doing it. So there are multiple things that I've started literally because I was like, if not now, like if like this is something that I don't want to regret not creating. Like this is something that I don't want to regret ever like not trying.
Yeah. Like
So I think that sticks with me.
the greatest
Sorry.
regret of the dying is like feeling that you didn't live life on your terms. So again, like it goes back to like the discomfort of doing the thing that isn't tested, there's no proof, there's no guarantee, the people around me don't get it. Like all of that's uncomfortable. Dying with regret is worse, according to people who are actually dying. So like
Yeah.
that sticks with me again, as far as like you got to at least try. Like we talk ourselves out of even trying so many times. And then you don't even really figure out like what is actually the fear. Like when it's like you just don't even get in the pool, you're like, you don't really even know what is the new skill that you need to build. What is the pattern that really is what's trying to get broken here? Because again, I feel like entrepreneurship, it is about spiritual development. It's not about building a business and making money. It's like the goal of being self-employed is leading you through like you need to knock down this wall, you need to build up this skill, you need to, gain this confidence. Like you have to have those things to make it. And that's the point, not the balance sheet at the end of the year showing you made X number of dollars. It's like to stay in it, you got to learn to swim. And the learning to swim part is the skill that like that follows you from lifetime to lifetime. Like that's like soul wealth of like actually healing yourself and believing in yourself, what you're capable of because you proved it to yourself rather than just playing it safe over and over and over.
Yeah. And it is always going to be scary, but I find it so comforting following the path, even though it's uncomfortable, because I am always learning and I enjoy the process of learning.
Yeah.
And I thought for the longest time that I didn't for a while. And I was realizing in this moment that it's not that I wasn't enjoying learning, it was that I was learning things I didn't want to learn. And my experience I had last summer, last fall, I got an urge to start reading about marketing. And it was a really random urge, came out of nowhere. But I was at a point where I was like, it's an urge. And this is me wanting to say yes to me. And I'm excited about this. So, like, let's just read some books about it. And like the information that I was sharing with people, the value that I was giving to people unexpectedly, like from the fact that I had just followed this urge. And they're like, why are you reading about marketing? I was like, I don't know. Honestly, no fucking idea. I'm
Yeah.
just curious.
Fun.
And like I was having so much fun just learning. I wasn't even at a point where like life coaching was even a thing for me. So like, if you believe in a divine plan, like this is an introduction to entrepreneurship before I ever knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. Like was literally just reading about marketing, thinking, this is interesting. I'm curious about this and I want to learn more. And so, like, I just kept feeding myself more information about it. Like, yeah, I'll read this book. Yeah, I'll read that book. Like, why not? Because I was literally just practicing following the urge to say yes. I was like, I really want to do this thing. Why am I stopping myself? Like, let's just do it. And I have a history of stopping myself towards those things for a lot of reasons. But I was practicing saying yes. And I was like, we're going to say yes to marketing. And then was talking to someone who was like, would you be willing to do my marketing for me? I was like, I literally have no experience, but yes.
Yes,
Like that's
yes, yes.
exactly what I said. I was like, I have no experience, but like if you end up like needing someone that you want to have a look over it, if you want to give me that internship experience, like to have a start at it, like yeah, I would do that. Like that's so weird. It came out of nowhere.
Mm,
You don't even know who you're going to end up communicating with and saying, I'm just reading some marketing stuff. Like, oh, really? Yeah.
yeah.
Like, so that was just it was an eye-opening experience for me because that was the first experience that I had followed where I had said, I'm actually curious about this. I actually want to learn about this. And it's not something that I was forcing myself to learn for like an exam or to do something for like a job because I was at my 9 to 5 and I needed to learn how to do this thing. Like there was so many instances of me forcing myself into learning something or to learn how to create a thing. Like so many instances of forcing that I didn't even realize that it was forcing. I was just like, this is just what you do. Like you need to learn a thing and you do it. And so like the experience of learning because I wanted to learn was mind blowing. I'm like, I'm not new to school, but like this is mind blowing.
Yeah. I
So
feel like even people who, like, I think about my brothers, like, they would say in a heartbeat, like, I hate learning because most people like associate learning with school. But
yeah.
like a new game comes out or like the new Call of Duty or whatever, and they're like learning their way through like this level and this level and this level, or they could rattle off like this player's football stats and this like team's whatever the fuck. Like, I couldn't care less, but they just absorb that information. And what is that? It's learning. And like they
Mhm.
say that like play is what turns on like our receptors. So like absorbing new information is so much easier when you're playing and you're having fun and there's like that openness. It like opens you up and then it's effortless to learn the thing. And to your point, like forcing like that belief that like, well, everybody's got to do things they hate, and it's like, or not. I mean, you don't have to. You can say no. You can like not want to spend your time forcing yourself to do different things, but like that's a habit that a lot of people believe in.
Well, and
And
I think,
yeah,
sorry, don't want to like interrupt
you're
the
you're on fire today. What do
like
you got?
I have so many thoughts. So here's yes, I absolutely agree with you that like play is involved. I think of one of my friends who like wanted to learn how to use how to use an espresso machine. And the idea of like playing there is like creating that space to learn. You are literally learning, but you're having fun doing it. You're getting an end result every time. And maybe it's not a tasty end result, but like you're learning. And I absolutely like promote this idea of like learning being a fun experience because your mind again this mind game is what's really interesting to me. I can look at it as I am forcing myself, or I can look at it as I am furthering myself towards this goal. And I will give you the example of my current class. I've been wanting to take it. As I signed up for it, I was like, actually, I don't know that I want to do it. It's a project management course. And I like love project management as a theory and a general idea. I'm like, I think I want to do this and I think I want to learn it and I think I'm curious. And somehow it always ends up into like some level of forcing when it comes to classes because it's school and because what I need to do when I am in class is follow their prompts and do the things that are required of those prompts. And like those things aren't of interest to me. But interestingly, what I did with this class is I shifted the mindset. I'm like, I want to get into transformational life coaching. How can this class help me towards that goal? And all of a sudden, I'm like, I want to read the books about project management so that I can learn how to create better projects for my transformational life coaching experience. Like all of a sudden, it went from I don't want to do this because these are prompts and I don't want to do those prompts to this is going to help me and this can help me on the path that I want to be on. How can I use this?
Yeah.
So I like the material hasn't changed. The way I'm looking at the material has changed. And now I'm like freaking excited. And homework is just a byproduct of a class, but the material is what I'm there for. And that I can do that with anything. I can shift the way that I'm seeing any learning experience that I have. I think back on, being in the laboratory and needing to learn how to create the protocols. Like that was literally an experience of my own personal growth that if I had applied it that way, would have had so much more fun with it. But instead I was like, oh, I have to do this as a project. And like I liked it, but there was always some level of I feel like it's my job and therefore I must do it. And it was never really me giving myself the choice to do it. It was just here I am at this job and I like the idea of doing this thing and I like the idea of growing in this way. But then there was always a feeling of like but if I didn't have to, I wouldn't. As in, like, if I weren't working here, I wouldn't have to be doing this thing, and I wouldn't do it just willy nilly. It's because I'm working here that I'm doing this thing. And I mean, like, I love writing protocols now, so like, it's mind blowing to me. But like, I had to force myself into wanting to do it, even though I said yes to everything. I was at work being like, "I'll take your protocol. I'll absolutely. Like, you don't want to do it, I'll do it." And like, that was an experience that I wanted, but I always felt forced in doing it. And that's a mindset shift. That did not have anything to do with the work itself. That was literally me not seeing the choice of accepting it.
Well, and I love what this episode has laid out as far as like connecting the dots with all of the mindset shifts that we covered. Like the whole belief of, I don't have time, and that then you didn't have a job anymore and you still thought you didn't have time. Like that's a mindset shift that it's almost like, do you have to give up your job to shift the belief that like I don't have time for fun? Like, mindset shifts can happen anytime. Like nothing outside of us has to change. Or the mindset shift of like, I can't do this because it's terrifying. It shouldn't be terrifying. Like if it's right, it wouldn't terrify me or whatever. Like believing that that's a hurdle. Like again, a mindset shift. Like there's so many of these available. And the tangible step that I think we can leave people with on this episode is like really looking at what you're saying yes to. Whether you're saying yes to fun things, or you're saying yes to forcing yourself to do things, or you're saying yes to like staying where you are because it's comfortable and you value security, or you're saying yes to like taking the leap and following whatever pull is pulling you in that direction. Like, what are you saying yes to? And how does that relate to what you value most? Because if you are saying yes to force, but you value fun, the yes needs to switch over here to like be closer to what you value. And how do you do that? You shift your mindset to I value fun. So I'm going to make time for fun. This thing that I have to do, instead of just feeling forced into it, I'm going to figure out how is this fun for me? Oh, well, I'm going to make it a step towards this goal that really matters to me. I'm going to hook it together. And like all of a sudden, there's all this extra energy available to like do the project management course. And it's like you said, the material hasn't changed, the course hasn't changed, like only our mindset shifts. And so like that's a powerful one. That's like one step of like taking inventory of what you're saying yes to, that I feel like could take you down so many different rabbit holes, as far as like bump your list of yeses up against your list of values, and like how close are they connecting. And if they're far apart, that's going to feel like an energy drain. Like that's where I think forcing even comes from, is like you're pointing yourself towards things that don't matter to you. Like we were saying about like when you feel like you're not enough, it's because you're pouring a lot of energy into things that don't actually matter to the people that you're giving them to. Like there has to be the linking up of like, I'm giving this energy and I'm getting this value in return. And then it's like there's an endless supply, seemingly endless supply of like you doing what it is that you want to be doing. Like it doesn't all have to be just like the next fun idea, the next fun idea. Like you can make things fun with a mindset shift. Like that's possible. And you do that by linking it to something that you already value. And so then it's like, well, I don't know what I value. Okay. Google free values exercise. There's a million of them out there. Walk you step by step through figuring out like what are your top couple values. So, yeah, I think take an inventory of your yeses, see how they align with your values. If you don't know what your values are, get clear on your values, and that's a powerful package of mental activity to play with.
Interestingly, I actually did create a like a find your values exercise at one
Oh
point,
yeah.
like last year. Yeah. And I actually associated it with money and like where you were spending money, where you were spending energy, where you were spending time. Um, and I think about what it is that we do spend our money on and how that is a reflection of what you value. So if you're spending money on, I tend to buy a lot of like learning related things. One of my highest values is learning and knowledge. And so I tend to buy a lot of courses. So like if you see that you are spending a lot of money on, courses on out outside experiences, like whatever that is, I mean, even looking at your bank statements can kind of give you an idea of what it is that you are valuing, at least in the physical world. And the added value that comes from paying attention to where your energy is going, I think is also worth it. Like, what are like when your day is crafted in the morning, where is your time going? And where is your energy going in relation to that time? I think of my work experience because this idea that I didn't have time was tied into the fact that I was giving all of my energy to work. So by the time I got home, I was just tired. The reality is I did not need to put all of that energy or mental focus into work. I could have focused it on what I wanted to do after work and on the fun that I wanted to have, the people I wanted to see, like setting that up and just being like, well, I have to go to work. But then after that, all the fun starts out. Like that is where my energy is going to go. So, like, that contributes to what it is you are choosing to value. And I say choosing very loosely because I think at the time that I was giving all of that energy to work, I didn't realize that I was giving all of that energy to work. I was just thinking that was a thing we had to do. Well, I have to give all of my energy to work because I work there and they're paying for my time. And it's like, yes, they're paying for your time and they're paying for you to do things, but they're not paying for you to be super worried about all of the stuff that, you don't need to worry about, of all of the extra things that you're worrying you're not doing, enough, or, it's going to be rejected or whatever, like, hello, all of my core wounds. But like, like I'm worrying about all of these things when in reality, like I could choose not to worry. And then I would have more energy for doing the things at the end of the day. And
Yeah.
I say that lovingly because I know that it's choosing not to worry is not an easy concept. And I think of what you've told me, Carly, which is that, you don't ever not worry. For someone with anxiety, like you're always worrying about something. The question is whether or not you can remind yourself that, you don't want to keep worrying. Like you have to give it back and say, I'm going to comfort myself with these words and I'm going to choose to calm this rather than stoke the fire because the way we talk to ourselves matters.
Yeah. Yeah. The words you say to yourself, most important words you ever say. And I love what you said about like, I use the word choosing lightly because we do, I mean, that's where we start is like in the autopilot of our conditioning of like what script were you handed when you got here and you're acting that out. And so like taking an inventory of what you spend your time on, what you spend your money on, like essentially what you're saying yes to, and little by little by little, like turn every single yes you ever make into a choice. Like, is that what you want? Or is that what you think you're supposed to be doing? Because those are two very different things. And the satisfaction level that comes off of each of them are two very different things. Right.
It
So,
is it is really interesting me like this concept of like not having a choice. Um, my one of my friends has a couple of kids, was complaining about the kids. And I was like, you could choose not to have those children. Like,
someone
yes,
did,
right?
like,
Well, I mean,
yeah.
I mean, like you have children now, but I had just heard this story, and it's kind of ties into manifestation. This idea that there was a couple that decided to get drunk on a beach, and they just passed out, and their three kids were left wandering on a public beach, surrounded by who knows, public random people, close to an ocean where like those kids could have drowned. Like they were making single non-parent decisions as married parent. Like they were parents making non-parent decisions. And like from a manifestation standpoint, if you make decisions as though you are single, as though you are childless, you will become childless. Like those kids get taken away because you have shown that you cannot keep them safe. Like the decisions that you make matter. So as I'm talking to my friend and she's like, well, it would be so different if I didn't have kids. And I was like, but you do have kids. Do you not want them? Because you can actually decide to give them up for adoption. Like you can decide that you don't want them anymore. You can see if anyone else in your family wants them. It's an option. Now, the fact that I'm even saying that is probably going to have like some people gasping. Like that's not even a possibility. That
It
is still a
is.
choice. That
It's
is still a
called
choice.
free will. And
Yep.
you choose to have them and you choose to keep them, like it's
So
make it a
like even the
choice.
things,
Get a
yeah,
choice.
even the things that you don't think are choices are still choices.
Yeah.
Like you can choose that you do not want to have those kids in your life anymore, and you can choose to live like a childless life. You do have to like legally be able to offer those children up into foster care, their next step. Like you've got to offload, but like said with love, right? Like if that's a decision that you want to make, I'm not going to judge it. Like you do what's best for you. And by doing what's best for you, you do what's best for those around you. So there are decisions everywhere, and you just have to see that it is a decision, see it as a
Yeah.
decision, and the yes becomes easier. Like, yes, I'm frustrated with my kids, but I want to keep them. So I still love them. Like, there's a reminder there of like, actually, I chose this life in the beginning. I wanted to be a parent, and I'm glad I'm a parent right now, which was kind of the point that we got to. Like, I'm glad that I have them. Excellent. That is your choice. And I am glad that you see it as a choice. There's so much more love in accepting that that's the path you want to go.
Yeah. And I feel the same way about entrepreneurship, and like being responsible for making your own money is like it's a choice and it's hard a lot of the time. But what's your alternative? Would you rather choose the alternative? No, I don't want the alternative. So I'll take this hard. Thank you, because the alternative hard is way worse for me, you
Yeah.
know?